Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com and I'm doing a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending November 21st, 2016. This is episode number 70 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from NCSoft regarding Blade & Soul. It's a pretty big news actually. The game is set to get a brand new class, a gunslinger class that'll likely be called Soul Gunner. Not much known about the gunslinger class just yet, but we do know that they'll be wielding dual guns, as you can see in the video in the background, and be released sometime next year alongside a new content update that will increase the game's level cap to 60. Also, interestingly enough, the South Korean version of the game is set to go free to play as well, which is big news for Korean players. The game costs a whopping $30 a month after hitting level 16. We here in the West complain about $10 to $15 subscriptions, but Blade & Soul is a cool 30 bucks. But yeah, this is a big update, and no word exactly when it'll launch, just sometime next year. Definitely looking forward to it though. Up next, while on the topic of NCSoft, we have some news for WildStar. Some financial news actually, because NCSoft released their earnings report a little over a week ago, and the financial results for WildStar are disappointing. The revenue is down 50% quarter over quarter, which is insane. Revenue is plummeting at WildStar, and it doesn't look good for the game's future. Other games doing alright, as you can see in the graphic in the background. I do hope they can turn things around, but it does look pretty grim at the moment. Up next, some pretty big news from EVE Online. The highly awaited, much anticipated Ascension update is officially live for EVE Online, and that is the free-to-play update for the game that we've known that was coming for a while, but it is officially live. If you want to check out EVE Online for free, definitely check it out now. It's a game that's been around since 2003. It's a game that's survived for such a long time, a solid game, and if you haven't played it, give it a try. After all, it is free to play. Keep in mind though, free to play accounts will be restricted on what skills they can train as well as what ships they can fly, but there's actually a surprising amount of stuff that is available for free players. Up next, a bit of news for Dragon Nest. The Identity Games team was over at G-Star and they revealed that there'll be a new class for the game called the Dark Sorceress, and they are a scythe-wielding new class. I do suspect though this update will go live on the Western version pretty quickly after the Chinese version, only because the developer actually published the game globally themselves. They can push the update out relatively soon. But yeah, new class coming to Dragon Nest. Up next, pretty big update for Phantasy Online 2. Yes, the game that's still not officially out in the West, but many people are still playing through VPNs and other means. They're adding Chapter 6, Episode 4, a new Extreme Quest, Grade 14 weapons, costumes, pets, and much more. Also, a new PvP Battle Arena is set to launch. Testing for the arena, I believe, is set to begin in December. However, many of the other updates themselves are set to go live on November 24th, so relatively soon. But yeah, this game is unfortunately still not officially out in the West. Next up, some pretty big news for Mabinogi Duel in South Korea. The collectible card game on mobile got a PC client in South Korea. Hopefully a PC client does launch in the West as well, because Mabinogi Duel is a card game and I believe it could benefit from it. A game like Shadowverse, for example, was available for mobile, but when it launched on PC through Steam, it exploded in popularity with over 5,000 concurrent users. Hopefully Mabinogi Duel will be able to get a big player base on PC as well. I look forward to playing the game on PC if it does launch so in the West this way. Western version of the PC client has yet to be announced, but I suspect it should be announced relatively soon. Up next, for everyone that was super excited, Zone 4 Fight District officially began open beta testing this last week. It's a brawler kind of like Rumble Fighter / Lost Saga, but it's not exactly a new game. It was originally available through OG Planet back in 2010. I believe it shut down a couple years later, and now, many years after that, it is coming back through Game & Game as well as through Steam. Again, open beta for the game already began if you want to check it out. This should be the global service for the game. There are IP blocks in only a handful of Southeast Asian countries, but beyond that, everyone can play on this version. Up next, a bit of a surprise announcement from Bless regarding Bless Mobile. Yes, in G-Star 2016, the folks behind Bless announced that Bless Mobile is in the works. It's being developed by a Chinese studio, and it probably will end up launching before Bless launches in the West. But we'll see. There's still hope for it according to Area, but until I can play it myself, the game looks kind of dead in water. Hopefully it does launch though, because it looks really pretty. You're seeing the Western trailer in the background right now. Next up, a bit of news from Webzen regarding Mu Legend. The game was shown off at G-Star 2016, and Webzen specifically did say the game would launch in Q1 of 2017. Keep in mind, the Korean version and I believe the North American version were kind of running in open beta around the same time, so I suspect the Western version should launch also in Q1 of 2017, so it's right around the corner. And they actually also showed off Azera Ironheart, which is a mobile game, and there was no international release about that, so no point of mentioning too much about it. But yeah, I think Mu Legend is going to launch relatively soon, and I'm kind of excited, as I had a surprising amount of fun with it during the Sunday Funday video. While on topic of G-Star 2016, we have Astellia. New details came out about it. It's a new Nexon game that's being worked on, and it'll be a collectible card game / MMORPG hybrid. And we can see from the gameplay there is some tab targeting mechanics, so it does feel like a real MMORPG, but with cards. You can summon up to 3 monsters at a time, which can battle for you in combat. So it does seem like a pretty pet-heavy style game. And of course, the gameplay video at G-Star shows off killing some crabs. It wouldn't be an MMORPG if you weren't killing crabs. So you fight alongside your pets, and that's really the unique mechanic of the game. Unfortunately, no release date on this one just yet. And while on topic of Nexon, we can't talk about Nexon without mentioning MapleStory. Pretty huge update for MapleStory actually. The game's 5th jobs are set to arrive this winter, and it's a huge update to the game because every single one of the game's 41 MapleStory jobs are going to get those 5th job boosts. So it's going to really add a lot more playability to the game, and it's a game I've returned to many times on my own with new classes, and this gives you a new reason to return to MapleStory. Players willing to be level 200 or higher to get the 5th job, but it's gotten a lot easier over the years, so it's easily doable nowadays. And in fact, to celebrate the launch of the 5th jobs, it's gotten even easier to level up. It's actually been reduced by 30% the amount of experience you need to get to level 200, so it's going to be much faster. I'll be returning to MapleStory to check out these updates, and I'm sure many other people will too. Another big update over here is that the game's damage cap will be removed as well, so big numbers are only going to get bigger. And honestly, seeing this trailer gets me so hyped because I love the big numbers and be able to destroy everything on the screen. It just, I don't know why, but it felt so good. So yes, I'll be returning to MapleStory for sure. Up next, some news from Game & Game. Besides launching Zone 4 this last week, they actually relaunched ELOA as well. The game is back for good. The triple action MMORPG is back. It was available through WebZen for some time, but they shut it down, and Game & Game picked it back up, and they relaunched it for good. There are some launch events going on too, so if you enjoyed ELOA on WebZen, check it out on Game & Game. Next up, a little more news from G-Star to cover. Peria Chronicles footage from G-Star surfaces. If you look at the gameplay video in the background, you can see what Peria Chronicles actually looks like. It's playable. The game is clearly making progress. I know a lot of people were confused about the game when they said they were going to restart it from scratch, and it looks like they're making progress, and the game is looking quite good. Graphically, it looks gorgeous, and I know we talked about in the podcast before that the game might be character-based, but no, you can actually customize your characters as well. There's a lot of gameplay videos out there already. Check out the link on MMOs.com to learn more about it too, actually, but it looks gorgeous graphically. Unfortunately, no news on when it's going to come out just yet. But I do suspect it's not too far off because it looks playable and it's way closer to the release than I probably thought it would be just a few months ago even. But yeah, I'm optimistic. Next up, moving back to the west, we have Rift. Starfall Prophecy just launched this last week. It's the latest expansion to the game, and it was a little controversial earlier because it does cost money, and the game is free to play, but the expansion does cost money. We did talk about in previous news recaps. The key highlights over here is that it does cost $40, but it increased the game's level cap to 70, adds 2 new dungeons, 1 new raid, and a bunch of other stuff. It's a huge update to the game. If you do play Rift, you're going to buy this update because it's huge. Up next, a bit of news for EverQuest 2. The game's 13th expansion, Kunark Ascending, is officially live, and yes, it's a 13th expansion to the game since its release back in 2004. EverQuest 2 may be a bit old now, but it's still going remarkably strong. And for a 2004 game, it still looks quite gorgeous as well. The game adds 4 new Ascension classes to the game, which become available once you complete the main story quest in the latest expansion. Also including the update are 6 new raid zones, new items, gear, and much more. Next up, an update for Tera is set to go live later this month called Fang and Feather, and it'll be updating the game's Archer class. The last update did big tweaks for the Mage class, and this update is going to focus on tweaking up the new Archer class. Alongside the tweaks to the Archer, it'll introduce a new 30-player raid that pits players against the biggest of big monsters, which I guess is just their latest content. Excuse the trailer in the background, it is the Spellbound trailer from the previous update because they didn't release a new trailer for this one just yet. Next up, an update for the stage-based HeroWarz. They introduced a new character called Izanami, the Illusionist, who is a high damage, high mobility, self-sustaining glass cannon-like caster class. And beyond just introducing a new character, they finally added an auction house. I feel like every game needs an auction house, but they didn't launch with one. And as with any update, there are a bunch of other small tweaks as well. There's actually a new pot system, a mystery shop system, and a big tweak to the game's cash app to add a bunch more cosmetics. But yeah, you can see the new character class in the background trailer, and it looks pretty cool. The next and last bit of news this week comes from My.com regarding the closed beta of Cloud Pirates. The second round of closed beta testing is set to begin on November 23rd. I'm actually more excited to hear about when the second round of closed beta testing for Revelation begins, but no word on that just yet. But yeah, Cloud Pirates will be, you can check it out on November 23rd if you get into the closed beta. The gameplay is supposed to be a bit like Dreadnought or Fractured Space, but with a cartoony Allied look. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.